Today we're building a exhibit house, but why should I make a normal exhibit house when I can make a snake-shaped exhibit house? No, I'm not in a mental asylum yet because I'm too fast, they can't catch me. Alright, so this build was started on stream, and yes, sometimes stream builds do get put into Naturalis. Not all of them die in oblivion, and if you want to save a stream build from complete oblivion, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, because every like and every subscribe goes towards saving one stream build from the pits of Tartarus. So yeah, hit the like button. Anyways, when it came to this snake exhibit build, I don't know how I got the... Well, actually, I do know how I got the idea. Because I was looking up, like, African architecture. Or what do you think I found? I found, like, I think it was a museum, which was a snake. Like, actually, it was, I think, a two-headed snake. Like, a building that pretty much looked like a snake. And I think you went into the building through its mouth, which we're not going to do here, because we're going for more trauma than that. Although that build, or that inspiration picture... I first thought like, oh yeah, it's just a snake and then a sort of tube thing in the middle. Yeah, the tube thing had also 8 tubes attached to it. And it was a giant spider. So Africa's really just going for the trauma there. But anyway, so that's what we're building now, which is just a coiled up snake. Because I wanted to have a bit more indoor space. And so I didn't want to just have a tube. Which is also what the inspo picture actually did. Well, it didn't have the snake completely coiled up, but the snake was pretty much just a circle. Just as what we're doing now. Although I made it 3 circles. Every circle is going to be a little bit smaller than the one below it, so that it looks like a coiled up snake. And then the head is just going to be dangling from above. Because I want a small child to be dragged into this building, look up, and just be completely traumatized by the snake. Yes, we're not going here for like, ooh, cute snake, ooh, pretty snake. No, we're going here for like, child, you're going to get eaten. Enjoy the trauma and enjoy the therapy when you're an adult. But here is the thing when it comes to snakes. First of all, I am not afraid of snakes. I don't think I've ever been afraid of snakes. I once was afraid of spiders when I was a kid, but here's the thing. My brain is weird because I just saw like a snake picture and it was just like, you know, a snake with an open mouth, not the fangs bared, so that helped a lot. But all I thought was just like, this just need the caption of howdy. And once I get that image in my mind of like, oh, this usually scary animal doing something really funny, I just can't be afraid of it anymore. And that's actually what happened with spiders. Like snakes, I was never afraid of. Spiders, I used to be afraid of. And then I got, like, what is it? Basically, then I saw jumping spiders. And those just look adorable. Also, they look like they have nothing behind all of those eyes. Like, there's no brain cell behind that. And that's amazing. Like, if I ever want a pet, I want the dumbest pet ever. I want a pet that just runs straight into a wall and just carries on. Because dumb pets are the best. Like, I don't want a smart pet. I want a dumb pet. I want nothing behind those eyes. Also, I probably don't want a pet for a long time because, yeah, don't take pets lightly. They are, like, they're going to live for a long time. You have to take care of them. So, if you want a pet, please do your research. Please be sure that like you're going to be able to take care of it. Because I will hunt you down if you just drop off your pet at the... Well, actually, if you drop off your pet at just like an animal shelter. Probably better than the assholes who drop their pets off the side of the roads. Don't take getting a pet lightly. I am warning you. I will find you. Anyways, back to the actual snake. So I wanted to make it look like a snake. Yes, it's a miracle. Poison is building a snake house and is actually making it look like a snake. A wonderful A-tier commentary, Poison. But when it came to building the snake, I immediately was just like, yeah, I don't want it to be smooth. I want it to look scaly because that's snakes. Snakes are scaly. I also always thought that snakes felt like sandpapery, but I've since... Well, I don't know for sure because I've never actually directly interacted with the snake, but I think they're supposed to just be a little bit more smooth feeling. But yeah, when it comes to snakes, I'm just like, you're so cute, Danger Noodle. You could kill me if I anger you, but you're cute, Danger Noodle. And once you keep calling a snake a Danger Noodle, you just can't be afraid of it. You're not allowed to anymore. Anyway, so yeah, the entire structure of this exhibit building, which is actually going to be a bigger exhibit building because I want to attach like all the other exhibits to it, but they didn't fit in the snake. And it also makes more sense to have the snakes from Africa, because this is an African build, in the snake part of the exhibit building. So the next episode is probably going to be the rest of the exhibit building, which is going to be a little bit more regular of a building, because I think that like, oh yeah, having the snake as an entrance, but then the rest of the building is just a building, makes a little bit more sense. Like, I'm not going to make the rest of the building like a spider, even though the inspiration picked was a spider with a snake. Like, that's just fully trauma. But anyway, so yes, this is going to be a like bigger build eventually, but the snake itself took so much time that I was just like, yeah, this is going to be a video, and then the other part of the building is going to be the next part or the next video, because we're not going to keep you here for more than 30 minutes, even though I think the last video was 40 minutes. So I used to have the goal of like, oh yeah, my videos are never going to be longer than like 25 minutes. And now I'm just completely destroying that by making my videos regularly over 25. Regularly, they are 30 minutes long now. But this is because I'm taking a lot more like chances when it comes to builds. Like, I want to just build ridiculous things. I don't know how this has come to be. Like, it started with the owl build, but now I'm just like, ooh, I could make this. And then it's like something really ridiculously outlandishly big, or like weird shapes and such, or in this case using weird just materials. Hey, once I got started with the stained wood pieces, I couldn't do anything but, because otherwise they would look a little bit disjointed. But yeah, building a snake's head out of them, that was a little bit of a trial, because here's the thing with the snake's body, it's just 3 circles. Like, it's basically 3 tube or circular tubes. But the snake's head, yeah, that isn't a tube. It's not circular. It's not easy to build, because you basically, like, you sort of need to mirror one side of the head to the other one, but you can't really do that with like the techniques that I know. So it's just like, all right, I just have to freehand this complete snake's head, which yeah, that's a bit of a trial, because like the owl, at least I could like copy things a lot of the times, but with a snake, the head, that'd just be completely freehand, just trying to adjust it everywhere I go. Here's the owl. I don't know why, for just the build, I immediately just zoomed out on the owl. But yeah, for the inside of this snake, because there was so much that I just had to cut out. But for the inside of the snake, I just wanted a dome. Like, I wanted this to be a functional building. So on the inside, it's obviously not going to look like a snake. Also, there's a lot of things that I cut out when it comes to making the heads. And also recoloring the entire snake. Because originally I was like, oh yeah, I want a black mamba, because that's the only snake that I really knew from Africa. Or at least I thought it was from Africa, and then I had to look it up, and it was like, oh yeah, it is from Africa. I'm safe here. But then I realized, oh yeah, this build is a giant catfish, because we don't have a black mamba in Planet Zoo. But at least this build can make you believe that there's a black mamba in Planet Zoo, even though there very much isn't. But yeah, I had to recolor the snake, because I found out a black mamba is named because its mouth, like the inside of its mouth, is pitch black, not the actual body of the snake, which just makes it look more like a demon. And then you see a picture of the black mamba with its mouth just open without the fangs, and it's just howdy. Like, if a snake does that and has its mouth just open Like, it's not like flicking out the tongue, but it just has its mouth open. There's no fangs and such. I just want to place a tiny little cowboy hat on its, or yeah, cowboy hat on its head. This is where my accent goes completely bonkers. Because I didn't think I had an accent, and then people realized, oh yeah, you're Dutch. How do you know? The accent. Anyways, let's move on to the actual building of the snake exhibit's interior. Also, just a brief thing on the exterior of the snake. So I had to recolor that snake completely because like the black mamba is actually sort of a more dullish, dark brownish color with a white belly, or belly a downside. Like, here is the thing. Is a snake all neck or is it just all body? That's the question that I'm going to put for you guys. What is a snake? Is it just a very long neck with a tail, or is it just a very long body with a tail? The tail was the easiest thing actually to build because it's a circular tube with a pointy bit. But anyways, so the interior of the snake, I first wanted it to make it completely beige, but then I was just like, that just doesn't feel right. Like, when I think of Africa, I just think of like a lot of like vibrant colors, patterns and such. So I kept looking, and then I found a very nice building that I think is in Africa. I think. And then it was just like, yeah, we're going to do this. Actually, I know that it's in Africa because I actually like looked beyond just the image. I actually clicked on the image, looked up where it was, and I don't know exactly where it was anymore because I have a squirrel brain, which means that unless it's chicken nuggets, I will forget it. Well, that there's an exception, except when it's chocolate. That's the other thing that I will constantly remember. And then there's also just a data bank of like useless memes and GIFs and everything. Yeah, that's just it. Anyway, so I didn't want the entrance of the exhibit building to be the mouth of the snake. Again, we're going for complete childhood trauma here. I want the snake to just be looking at you. Which means that, oh yeah, it looks a little bit more alive because like, I don't know if everyone was like this as a kid, but if I went into an exhibit building and I went through the mouth of the snake, also it's storming, so that might get picked up, but when it comes to like, oh, if I went into this building and I had to go into the mouth, then I would just think, oh, it's a dead snake or it's a fake snake. But if the snake is just looking at you and you go like underneath it still, which is where the entrance is going to be, then it's way more of a childhood trauma. Because then I might think, oh, the snake is going to come alive at one point and eat us all. Yeah, that's the entire idea for Naturalis. If your child doesn't go away here with some kind of trauma, then we have failed as a zoo. Fuck all of those other zoos who want your child to be happy here. We want to make sure that therapists in the future are employed. I probably shouldn't say that, but that was the entire idea. It was just like, I want to make this look kind of creepy, like kind of like it could come alive. And I also constantly sent pictures of it to Basic, a friend who is afraid of snakes, and I'm just like, hey, does this scare you? No. Alright, need to make it scarier. Does this scare you? No. Alright, need to make it even more scarier. I didn't want to add like the tongue, because I think, this is again, just for me, the tongue flicking, for me, just makes it look cuter. I don't want that. I could have maybe opened up the mouth and have the fangs, but yeah, we're not going for that kind of mental insanity on my part. I was already very proud of the snake's head looking like a snake, even though after I finished the head, that's when I looked up how does a snake's head actually look like. So luckily enough, the black mamba actually does kind of look like this. Also, a black mamba is very deadly. I thought like, oh yeah, it's just like, you know, like every other snake. And no, black mamba is I think one of the most dangerous snakes out there. Because I think it's like more aggressive than other like very venomous snakes. So it will bite you faster. I mean, again, if animals ever rose up against humans, we would not stand a chance. Like, even if it was just ants. If, like, ants suddenly were just like, yeah, let's kill all humans, we wouldn't stand a chance. We would just lay down and die. Because there's like a trillion bazillion ants out there. They would just win by numbers. Also, bullet ants. Don't need to say more. Anyway, so again, when it comes to the snake, it's not supposed to be perfect. Because, I mean, it's a building. It's not supposed to be completely like a realistic snake. So the tail is just kind of coming out of the cylinders or the circles of the coiled up snake. You don't actually see like, oh yeah, the snake just slowly like gets smaller and then goes on into the tail. It's just like tail suddenly comes out of the snake. Same with the head. If you saw like the upside of it, the snake's head just comes out of one of those circles. But you don't really see this as a guest. So then it's fine because it's a building. They're not going for complete realism. So when it comes to the snake, they also go just for like, all right, this, you know, makes it look like a snake, but also we don't have to go the extra mile to make it like completely realistic because the guests are not going to see that. It's like the same with like the Haunted Mansion or like the Phantom Manor, because the Phantom Manor of like Disneyland Paris, which is basically Paris's version of the Haunted Mansion, but like, yeah, the house itself is fake. Like, you're not in that house in the ride. You're in like a show building that's hidden from view. And that's the same idea with the snake. Like, the snake is fake. You are inside the snake, but it's not like completely realistic. Anyways, moving on to the actual building, because by this point I had just so much fun building the snake itself that I was just like, alright, I have the dome on the inside, like this really colorful pattern dome. Now I actually need to make it an exhibit building. And here's the thing. As I said, I wanted to first make it completely beige. I still wanted a little bit of beige in it, just to make it so that the dome actually stands out more. When it comes to building really colorful things, I always like to have like a little bit of beige so that you can draw more attention to like the colorful parts. But the thing is, I wanted this to look fancy. I wanted this to look luxurious, and I had no idea how to really do that. By the end of this video, you might think like, you could have probably done a little bit better, which is what my brain is now constantly thinking of, just like, oh, I could have made this a little bit more luxurious. But in the end, I'm happy with it. And that's all that matters. That's also, like, whenever you guys look at a build and think like, oh, I could never build like this, or your builds are so much better. The way, or the reason that your builds are great is because you put the time and effort into them. Yes. Just take that in. Your builds are great because you spent the time and effort on them. Don't say no, don't say anything else, just accept the fact that your builds are great because you spent the time and effort into them. Nope, I'm hearing you, I see you writing down, but I could never build like this. Nope, bad, self-confidence. I don't know where this video is going, but then I don't think anyone knows where this video is going. But anyway, so when it came to the entrance, as I said, I didn't want it to go through the mouth of the snake because that would take away a little bit of the fear factor, the trauma factor. Because again, then it would just look like a dead snake. Now it just looks like a snake ready to attack. And then I had to make the actual exhibit building. Or the actual exhibits. Because I always say, oh, I constantly forget the exhibits. But they are kind of an integral part of a zoo. Like, I don't think any zoo has no exhibits whatsoever. Because there are just those animals that are just too small for a actual habitat. Like, there's a lot of like bugs, snakes, other reptiles and such. They're just like, yeah, they don't really do well in a habitat. Or at least they are too small, so that then the habitat would either be teeny tiny, at which point it's probably just better to build them an exhibit, or you would just never see the actual animal because the habitat is so large and the actual animal in it is so tiny. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this, I wanted to first make like the windows into the exhibits and make them round. But then I realized, yeah, building something round that's in a circular structure, so then you have to deal with like 2 circles at the same point, is hell. Like, I don't know how I got through the sand cat build, because that's the same concept. Like, you have the circular cutout of the roof, but then the roof itself is circular. Like, that was a nightmare to build. And so I was just like, yeah, I already built that snake. I'm not going for further personal trauma. I just want to traumatize the kids walking into this. I don't want to traumatize myself by building it. So that's what we went for eventually. Just not circular, rectangular windows, and then just a lot of wood. Which I just like to use the wood because it gives it a little bit more of like a natural cozy vibe. Even though this was supposed to be like luxurious, but then it's not supposed to be painful luxurious. It's just supposed to be like, yeah, I could never afford this place, but it looks nice. That's kind of luxurious. Also, when it came to like the lamp, because eventually I also added a lamp, I just saw this like image of like basically a tree or like the branches of a tree, and then just add lights to that. And I eventually added that as well, which you will see at the later part of the video, because Poison can't keep one train of thought, so he spoils parts of his own video. But we're now too long in for it to be completely redone. But anyways, so when it came to the actual like exhibit part, of course it had to be completely circular because the snake is circular. But I wanted it to be colorful. Again, because like when I think of Africa, I just think of like really colorful, bright patterns and fabrics and such. Like a lot of like Africa, or at least the African area in Naturalis, is really just inspired by like fabrics and such. Which is kind of strange. Because no other area in Naturalis so far has been like inspired by like fabrics or such. It's usually inspired by like buildings or cultures, although cultures, you know, fabrics can tie into cultures, but it's never like such a like thing in a thing in a thing. Like, I don't think any other area in Naturalis is inspired in that way. But what is the thing with the African area is yeah, that's the whole train of thought sometimes. It's just because the interior of the actual exhibit building, like I had this middle thing, but I didn't know what to do with it. And so eventually it was just like, yeah, let's just put a planter in there and let's be done with it. Because sometimes you're just like, yeah, I don't know what to do with this. Anyways, so I added it into Naturalis. So the snake is now officially in Naturalis. And it's going to be on the African Plaza. Because I wanted the plaza here is like on the back of the elephant habitat. Or not the elephant habitat, it's at the back of the lion habitats. Because I wanted just to have like a plaza here, maybe with like some stalls. Like I don't want a full restaurant here, because there we have the sand cats. So I didn't want to have like another restaurant in the African area. But I wanted like a plaza where you can just kind of chill. There's some food stalls. Maybe there's like an information desk or information stall. But just a place where you can rest. It's like the end of the zoo. Like Naturalis is not going to get much bigger than this. At least like, yeah, all the other areas are going to get filled up. But I do want to make it so that like, oh yeah, this snake exhibit, or just the entire exhibit house, because this is going to get larger, this is going to form like the back end of the zoo. So I don't want to expand much further in this direction. And it also makes sense because then like, oh yeah, the exhibit building can also function a little bit as like a warehouse, or at least like an entry point for staff and such. Because Naturalis so far doesn't have that many staff areas, but like the back of an exhibit house, because it's like obscured from the rest of the zoo, makes sense to have like some staff facilities there. Also, it helps a lot with the staff where now just constantly running back and forth from the entire front of Naturalis to the complete back of Naturalis. Yeah, we sometimes need to take the staff into consideration. We're not taking the guests in consideration because hell no, you're never going to see guests in Naturalis because I love my frame rates, even how little they are by this point. But yeah, I want the staff facilities like at the back of the exhibit house, which again makes sense because it's completely obscured from the guests. And that's like a big thing with like also the Australian area. I have no idea how to do it there because there also needs to be like staff facilities at the back of that area. And I just built that tree lamp that I talked about. And then we are finishing off by building some signs. Because usually with these exhibits, you have like a lot of signs of this, like, oh, this is like the puff adder. These are the areas that they live in. This is like, basically you get the entire Zoopedia, but on the signs. Usually, or at least I love for those signs to be interactive, but yeah, I don't want to go through that mental trauma. I'm just going to leave that to Goron. I used to say like, oh, these signs were made by Goron. They are not, although I did forget who they're made by. Because I have the brain capacity of a goldfish. But anyways, so I just changed these signs. I've used these signs all throughout Naturalis, but I just changed them so that they... this is going to sound so bad, but that they look more African. Again, I'm completely ignorant when it comes to like African architecture and culture and such. Because... well, most of the time when it comes to like Africa, a lot of like the knowledge that I have of like areas comes from history class, but I don't know if this is for or for a lot of places, but when it comes to like African history, at least here, the one thing that we talked about when it comes to Africa in history class was Egypt and a little bit Mesopotamia, but that was like the smallest part. And like Mesopotamia is, I constantly forget, like Arabia or like the Arabian Peninsula, I think is technically considered part of Asia, so that doesn't even count. But yeah, there's a lot of like different like big cultures and historical points and such in African history, but they just got completely skipped in history class. Which is kind of a sad thing because like, no, I think it was like Mansa Musa, think that was his name, who was like once the richest person on Earth and completely crippled. I don't know if it was the European economy or just like the Middle Eastern economy by just spending so much gold. And that's just like, yeah, that's like, why aren't we talking about them? And then there's so many other like just, you know, key historical figures that just don't get talked about. And so, because like a lot of my knowledge of different cultures and such comes from my interest in history, because the entire African history is just kind of just like shoved to the side here in history class, I never really got exposed to it that much. Like it's only been recently that I really got exposed to it. We're not talking about the Netflix documentary of Cleopatra. We're not mentioning it here. Like, that's just a non-topic here. But anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. I'm still running from that mental asylum. Like, the people are still chasing me. They're in white suits. They have weird looking syringes. I'm going to keep running. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, because every like and subscribe saves another stream build from Oblivion. And I hope you have a wonderful day. There's also a membership program which gives you emotes, even though I rarely stream. Anyways, have a wonderful day, guys. Bye-bye.